Good evening, familia. Or should I say, peace, familia. Love, familia. This show's Ray Collazo. Thank you so much for joining the simulcast of the Founding Translation talk show, as well as Bomba Live, the virtual Puerto Rican celebration. Thank you so much for joining us. Also going to become a canceled Goya episode. Let's keep that real. But we'll talk about Goya later. The shame of Goya. No bueno. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're watching us live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, we really appreciate you checking us out live. The live vodcast here, the simulcast of Founding Translation at Bomba Live. You also could be watching this as a YouTube program or as a podcast. And you could download a podcast. And of course, on the radio at WBPMLP 106.5 in Philadelphia on this peaceful edition of Bomba Live Founding Translation. We're going to have a wonderful panel of Puerto Rican women who are going to talk about, what else are Puerto Rican women talk about this week? The iconic Walter Mercado, his incredible Netflix special, a documentary just came out last night. And of course, most of us have already seen it. But if you haven't, either way, we're going to have a great conversation about the significance of Walter, what people thought about this documentary. We're going to hit a couple of the news headlines, of course. If you didn't hear about Goya, we got to talk about that. And obviously, this pandemic that continues to impact our community, maybe a few other headlines. And later on in the show, Adonis Banegas, who is the executive director of Concilio in Philadelphia, is going to talk to us about the Hispanic Fiesta, the virtual Hispanic Fiesta coming up that Concilio is sponsoring this weekend. And also hear about another event that our friends at the Philadelphia Latino Film Festival are doing that's going to be a continuation of this conversation about the iconic Walter Mercado. Of course, I couldn't have this conversation without some very strong Puerto Rican women that can really going to break this down. Let's start with, from the Philadelphia Latino Film Festival in parts unknown, Marangeli Mejia Ravel. Welcome back.
Buenas noches, familia. Un honor estar con ustedes nuevamente. Esto está bueno.
Seguro que sí. Unlike Goya, this is muy bueno. No question. Marangeli, you and the Philadelphia Latino Film Festival were such a smashing success at Bomba Live. Our friends in Chicago want to bring you to Chicago. They had so many questions about the filmmakers. And you're going to talk in a second, which people saw in the ad in the beginning of the show. You're taking the Walter Mercado conversation a otro nivel. So this is a good appetizer for your conversation you're having on your platform on Tuesday.
Sí, definitivamente. So, como compartiste, definitivamente super thrilled of with the release of this documentary. Yes, I watched it last night. Hey, the jury's still out if I will watch it again today. Definitely, super excited. Loved it. It's a labor of love. Walter Mercado was a very significant figure. I learned about horoscopes with Walter. There are things that are sharing the film, and I don't want to go into spoilers, right? Let people enjoy it for what it is. But the significance of Walter Mercado it's huge in our community, in our upbringing, from how he carried himself, all the personality, all the positivity, the fact that he was very open to, he always said that he wasn't about one religion, that it was about, the beauty of what we have and the beauty of the spirit, but siempre mirando todo con un lente muy, muy positivo y alentando a la gente, y obviamente, pues su vestimenta, su personalidad, el hecho de que era una persona que era un artista, en realidad multidisciplinario. Él empieza como bailarín y como actor. So all of that happening, and at the same time, obviously, it's no secret that people always talk about his sexuality or what it was or what it wasn't, and he carried on with the pride of joy that made him just a bright light for all of us. And
no question about it. And we're gonna get into the many elements of what makes the Walter Mercado story so dynamic. With our other friends as well, let's bring on Zulema Rodriguez, the coquí in the desert, and Mayra Arroyo.
I like it. Saludos.
Good evening. Talk about the diaspora. I love having all my folks here from different states, communities, time zones. Mayra Arroyo is a former elected official, works in higher education. Mayra, I do want to ask you later in the show for a second about, as someone that works in higher ed, what you're thinking about, putting kids potentially in harm's way and the balance here that we all have about wanting to get kids to continue their education, whether they're little ones or, in your case, the college crowd, but safety first, right? So this is a dilemma we have. lot of stuff going on.
Decisions to make.
Absolutely. And Zulema Rodriguez, one of our top organizers in the country, made a big impact on the major Bomba Live show we had in June. So we had to have you back as soon as possible. So Zulema, why don't we go to you? We heard from Marangeli. So when I approached you, because I said, I want to have one of these real strong Puerto Rican women to give me the Puerto Rican perspective. That's one of the things about the documentary, which was really interesting, but they had to do it in a way that would appeal to everybody. But nosotros, we have a special, obviously, connection with this man that's very specific to us and our culture as Puerto Ricans. So I think we want to have that tint to this conversation. And Zulema said, look, I'm not an expert. I'm just a Puerto Rican that, was part of his, culture. But that's why I want you to show Zulema. So when you knew this was coming, I saw you on social media say, hold on, I'm as busy as anything.
Don't bother me.
But don't bother me. We got to prioritize here. Zulema, was it worth the wait? Talk to us about your emotions last night, Mama. Come on.
Zulema was probably like, shh, everybody be quiet. I got to watch this.
Right. Like those 5 minutes. Look, I'll age myself. I am 50 years old. So I remember when he was on for just a few minutes and the house went still. I was really emotional watching it yesterday. And because like Rafael said, he's ours, right? He's ours. And I really took an ancestral journey, right, with it. And I relived so many years of my life. I will say this, and como boricua voy a hablar, si él dijo que te pusiera unos panties verdes, te los ponía y tú no preguntabas. There was nothing that man could tell us to do that we did not do.
And Zulema, so let's get into that. Why was that? What about his appeal as Puerto Rican specifically? Because I know we got people. I see my great friend Hamri Gonzalo, saludo Hamri, one of my Nicaraguan brothers. So this is not to exclude anybody, but I want people to get a little insight around what was so special about him for us. So what was it that drew you to him, that made us so loyal to him, in all being so different in every way and distinct in every way?
Yeah, well, it wasn't. I don't think it was a choice. It's like using sofrito. Like it's in your blood. It's in your blood as a Puerto Rican. And my grandmother, my great grandmother. This was passed down generationally. It wasn't like I discovered him. It's what I knew. I never questioned it.
Yes,
it's just part of the fiber of who I am, who I was brought up as.
Mayra, the passion was deep.
The passion was definitely deep. Listen, he was an icon to all of us, and we listened to him on a daily, intensely, and listening to his message, and he brought a lot of hope. And it's like you mentioned earlier, if he told you to wear your panties backwards or inside out, you did it.
Because that was going to bring you good luck.
Yes.
That's what Capricorns need to do today.
Yeah. And it's interesting that, as I was watching it with my daughter last night, and, my daughter is 31 years old. She remembers Walter Mercado. He was a household name, And, we were watching it, and there were times I was crying. I was just happy, and I cried, and I was so, it was a beautiful thing to learn a lot more about him. Yeah. And I also, as we were growing up, I know that in the show last night, they talked a lot about his sexuality, but I remember not thinking about that in the past when I was watching him.
I felt the same way. To me, it was one of the least interesting parts of it. Not to say it wasn't interesting, but people stressed about that so much, but he was so beyond that.
It did not matter.
He transcended those divides. He transcended generational divides. He transcended gender.
Religious.
Yep. And he was intersectional before a time that we spoke about intersectionality.
Yes.
He was that.
This is Marangeli. This is the question I wanted to ask you all day. Because one of the things that struck me watching it was, of course, Puerto Ricans like to think of Walter as kind of the epitome of Puerto Ricans, right? The dramatic, the style, the intersectionality, because the hardcore, some of the hardest core Puerto Rican Catholics still, like they don't dismiss Santeria because they keep a leg in that pew sometimes too, right? So, but I almost feel like watching it. I almost feel like what struck me was how much of our culture during that time period was because of Walter. Like, was him being dramatic sort of influenced all of us? Was the intersectionality of our spiritualities? Like, how much did he, because culture's dynamic. How much of this was really Walter influencing Puerto Ricans, and how much of it was him being our vessel to the world?
I mean, understanding that Zulema is 15 and I'm 20, I'm going to say... I'm just going to say, see, we're being kind to you. I'm going to say that there was an element of his openness to other religions that as a child watching, because at that point it was an hour show. When I was growing up, it was Las Estrellas y Usted. He would perform and all of this. But the fact that he began, they were the first time that I got exposed to what being Budista era, or otros elementos de otras religiones. And I understand absolutamente. Yo siempre relajaba a mi mamá, le decía, esto es un remix. Mamá decía, no, santería, pero le tenía un vasito de agua, le tenía fruta. And I was like, okay,
the contradiction of being Puerto Rican.
Absolutamente. Yes. Pero la apertura de él a también our resilience, the capacity that we had internally to navigate stuff, the fact that things could get a little funky, but you will always get on the other side. Mijo, to this day, ese horóscopo, and I'm really sorry, this is going to sound really cruel, but when he passed, I was like, this will be the following year will be the first year that I will not have the predictions. Like I felt completely out of place. Like, holy.
What an impact. Zulema,
no, las dejó hechas. Él escribió bastante y dejó predicciones bastante. La sobrina va a estar administrando eso.
No, and actually, jump in. Somebody say something?
No.
This is what we want to put out. And any of the ladies want to jump in here. We're talking to Mayra, Zulema, Marangeli about what else.
I think that you said it, Ray, is it culturally, as Puerto Ricans, if you don't know, check out, we're a mix of so many different things. And you said the contradictions, right? Like there are folks that are like, mira, no me hables de eso. But like Marangeli said, like there's a little cup of water somewhere in the house. There's something, right? So, it is. I think that if we view him as intersectionality, the absolute definition of intersectionality, religion, he taught us to have faith because tomorrow was always going to be better. And this year was always going to be better. Right. And he also taught us to center your energy and to center your power, because he would speak to Escorpio, tú tienes el poder. He would say that to you, right? And so he taught us how to be resilient, how to look for a better tomorrow all the time. And let me tell you, buy stock in Vaseline, because all kind of Puerto Ricans are going to be rushing out and putting Vaseline on over para que se me resbale todo.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutamente. Yeah. More than religion, it was about spirituality.
Yes.
It's like you can work with, you can have your differences, but at the end, it's about your values and your spirituality and being of service and supporting other people and, just being.
And as Latino people, we are very spiritual. We're very spiritual. And what I really enjoyed about him too, that he really brought in all types of religions into his horoscope, because he needed to appease to a global audience as well. And so I really appreciated that about him. And I think the biggest thing that I think he brought to a lot of us was keeping positivity, that positive energy, and which allowed us to always hope that things were always going to be better. And we believed in that.
We did.
And to this day, we are practicing that. And we also still believe in that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, for me, I'll speak personally that, like the looking for, like New Year's Eve, you could done whatever you did, but you followed whatever those directions. And I know when I wasn't in Puerto Rico, when I was in the States, I'd be Googling that, like, okay, what did he say? What am I doing? Because it wasn't necessarily, it was, I think that he also defined the definition of there's religion and there's spirituality and there's a mindset, right? He really drew those lines so that we could understand that one doesn't cancel the other.
Right.
And they build upon each other. And I think that having that balance is what I learned. Watching it, I felt full. I felt new again. I will watch it a million times. And because I have a Ganesha, and he mentioned Ganesha. I have Ganesha right on my desk. And I also have Virgin Mary back there. And I also have a candle. And it's not about who's on it. It's about the intentions behind it. He talks about setting those intentions, doing the things, whatever it may be, to make you better in this world and to know that tomorrow will be better.
Yeah, you're right. And speaking about that, it's also my daughter and I are also in different types of journey, and we are learning about the Hindu religion and practicing about, you know, goodness and positivity. And I was so happy that he also mentioned, and you know, the Ganesha. So you're absolutely right about that.
No, claro, y que él siempre cerraba, no importa lo que estuviera hablando, siempre el mensaje al final era el amor.
Yes.
So in a way, he was a role model for us, that regardless of differences, center yourself in that. So we learn about astrology, we learn about traits for different signs. Yo me acuerdo chiquita, oh, the Pisces are like this. Well, sí, yo soy así. You know, that was always there, and everybody loved them. I think, you know, I started watching and thinking, you know, and I'm happy that he had the opportunity to be part of this journey. I'm happy that he had the opportunity to have that celebration with that exhibit in Miami. That was so beautiful that he got to see it, right? And that he got to be there. Really, really, really incredible stuff that he.
And I think it's really and when he lost everything too.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
When he trusted, he trusted. And I think that he trusted blindly, and but he still lived through it, and he had his team. Like, he was loyal to his people.
His dignity.
Yeah.
Throughout it all. Absolutamente. He maintained that.
Canceled Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
What a horrible human being that guy is.
I was so angry. I wanted to.
What a horrible human being that guy is.
Send him a letter.
He's still making money.
You don't have your name? He took the man's name.
Yeah.
Couldn't work. He couldn't leave his house. I mean, like, how do you live without your name? I mean, it's not like you weren't making plenty of money.
Yeah.
What a terrible human being.
It was. That was really sad to see that, because, you know, he was his name, and there's someone who wanted to steal his identity. It just really struck me hard, because he was a good human being. And he trusted, as you had mentioned, he just really trusted really hard.
Overly trustful.
And someone took advantage of him.
Let me ask you, ladies.
The scene of him being in the airport in Miami when he was going to the show that Marangeli.
It took 2 hours to get him out of the Miami airport. Forget about it.
Well, I mean, and you know, Ray, I traveled with some folks that are high profile.
Yeah, I don't want to call you, but we know you're a big shot. I know you're an A-lister. So
listen, I'm not much of a fangirl, but I tell you.
Well, when you're a superstar, you know, like, I know how it works.
Man, stop. But I would have passed out. I'm not a fangirl. I'm not.
That would be a big one. Especially in the Miami airport. You know, let me ask y'all a question. That I think I was thinking about this, because there was a lot to learn. Because, you know, I think doing the math, he didn't really become an international star till he's about 40 almost, right? Because he didn't really become an astrologer on TV till his late 30s. And then the national thing. But that, you know, even in the 70s and 80s, outside of the singers, you have to kind of put them in a separate category. Puerto Ricans nowadays don't realize the media landscape was a lot different. Basically, the film industry was Mexico. The novela industry was basically Mexico, a little bit of South America. It's more South American now. So even the actors, most of our other celebrities, really local celebrities on the island, outside of the big salsa singers and a couple of the big singers and, you know, music people. So he was really, outside of the singers, he was one of the first mainstream Latin American stars that Puerto Rico produced. Marangeli, jump in there, because Puerto Ricans of this generation got to understand, like, now we're big with everybody, reggaeton and all that, but like, it wasn't like that back then in a Spanish-speaking context.
La única persona, la única figura pública en Puerto Rico que para mí es comparable en términos de cómo it transcended every contradiction and every aspect was Iris Chacón. Iris Chacón. Porque Iris Chacón, mi abuela era súper religiosa, and I remember being a little girl and watching her TV show every Saturday night thinking like, esta mujer está, you know, like she's dancing in a thong and we're watching this and like there's something that is not gelling here. I can't watch her, but she's doing it, and you're watching it like hello. And Walter was that other person that you'll be like, okay, and you're watching the absolutamente. Mm-hmm. No, él era una persona apreciada. Todo el mundo estaba pendiente a sus pronósticos para las elecciones, para despedida de año definitivamente, para el día de los enamorados, para el principio del año. You know, tú querías ver a Walter y leer de Walter todos los días.
Una pregunta, Ray, para ti. I'm going to flip the table, Ray.
To me? You talking about to me?
Yeah, I'm going to ask you a question.
Go right ahead. It's a free country. At least it is for now.
If you were to have been able to meet him, what question would you ask him?
Oh, probably like what he thought about what was going on now. Like his observations on the world now and how we deal with it. Because, like I said, his personal stuff, it was good to know the background, but I couldn't get over how good he was at what he did. Like that when he did that media junket in Miami at 89. You know, like I think about legends are about what you do over time. Anyone can do something great for 6 months or be one-shot ponies, but to have that kind of staying power, he was perfect. You know, the idioma, he was perfect.
Yeah.
And just how comfortable he was with who he was and how to express that. He expressed political messages in that interview about how Latinos are supposed to unite and work together better than any politician doing anything this year. He was excellent.
Yeah. You know what really, and I think that when he was telling you the horoscope, you felt like he was talking to you. Mm-hmm. Like that horoscope he was like, you felt that connection. Like he's telling me something. He's telling me. He's telling me
to flip my underwear around. I'm gonna go do it.
Honestly, you felt that connection. You felt like he personally knew you when he was saying Capricornio.
Yes.
Yeah.
Zulema, talk to me about the fashion. You have a consignment shop. You do your thing with the fashion. Talk to me about the fashion. My man, you want an influence. And you know, it was interesting when he went to Miami, he said, I gotta have all my costume people. I gotta have my perfume person. Like,
oh yeah.
Solo detalle. All the jewels, crazy. The fashion game was crazy.
It mattered though. I mean, and he was so himself at a time. I always say, you know, I was born in 1969, and we weren't when I came to the US in 75, we weren't loud and proud. You know, it was like, be quiet, blend in, learn the language.
You know, Jibarito especially, it was
don't make too much noise, right? That was culturally, or in that moment of time where we were at. We weren't loud and proud and brown and, you know, raising hell everywhere. And he was exactly who he wanted to be with his hair, because it was always impeccable, and wearing makeup when men didn't wear eyeliner. I mean, you know, all of that. And he showed up his true, authentic self.
Yes.
No question about it. So we're gonna take a musical break here so we can catch our breath. This has been a wonderful conversation. Christina Vegas saying, wow, bro, you got a lot of strong women here. How else do we do it here on Bomba Live? We always got some strong women challenging me, asking me questions, enjoying the conversation. Like I said, I dip out because I enjoy watching the show as much as anybody. So no, we're going to come back. We're just going to do a musical clip. So we're going to come back because we have to hear more about the event you're doing, where Marangeli's actually doing a virtual event next Tuesday where she's going to interview the directors and the producers. So actually, I want to get Zulema and Maida's questions when we come back. What questions do you have for the producers and the directors? That'll be good. So a lot of people, this is for people that want to either reminisce or relive the major Bomba Live event, which really kicked off this platform that took place on June 13th, a 10.5-hour extravaganza, which raised money for Collective Ile, and which fights for social justice and deals with racism on the island of Puerto Rico. Much respect to our friends on the island fighting the good fight. There's a lot of fights going on in Puerto Rico. When the Renuncia movement is now renewed, the primaries are Sunday in Puerto Rico. People need to vote, but that's another conversation. But there's a lot going on the island. But my point is that a lot of people didn't, we wanted to relive some of the great moments. And so Jeidimar Rijos, que ganó La Voz 2019, in collaboration with Luis Fonsi, was graced us by singing La Borinqueña during the primetime show. So we're going to listen to Jeidimar's rendition again of La Borinqueña. We'll come back and we'll get Mayra and what Mayra and Zulema would ask the producers of the Walter Mercado Mucho, Mucho Amor documentary when we come back. Hold on for a second.
De Borinquen, donde he nacido yo, es un jardín florido de mágico primor, un cielo siempre nítido le sirve de dosel y dan arrullos plácidos las olas a sus pies. Cuando a sus playas llegó Colón, exclamó lleno de admiración. Oh, oh, esta es la linda tierra que busco yo. Es Borinquen la hija del mar y el sol, 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 del mar y el sol. Muchísimas gracias, un placer.
Beautiful job by Jeidimar Rijos singing La Borinqueña on the primetime show of June 13th that took place June 13th. She's going to come back on a future episode of the show to have a longer conversation, hopefully sing some more for us. So Jeidimar is a big part of the next generation of great talent from the island of Puerto Rico. We're talking to some great friends to the show, Marangeli Mejia from the Philadelphia Latino Film Festival, Zulema Rodriguez and Mayra Arroyo. So Zulema, let's start with you, Zulema. Marangeli's going to have the opportunity Tuesday on her platform to interview the directors and the producers of this documentary. So what question would you have for them?
I think I would ask why now? Why did they release this now? Why was now the moment? Is it because of the climate that we're living in? Is it because of what the island and our folks have been through? Is it because of this COVID moment and what is happening? Why was it that in 2020, this was released in this moment? That's what I would ask.
I can offer a little bit of insight on that in terms of what the timeline for the release was. Very quickly, so the film premiere at Sundance in January, and obviously got hit by all the different, festival cancellations and restrictions for, gatherings, but definitely was acquired by Netflix from the jump. So at that point, they knew that they were going to the festival, they were going to Netflix. And, the one part, even though I'm very excited about the release, I was like, I wanted a commercial theatrical release. Because I knew that people would have gone, hello. Pero también está el elemento de la conveniencia. So, dado donde estamos ahora mismo, this is the best way to do it, to access also audiences. So, maybe he was looking out
Everyone's doing
it. I'm wondering how long it took them to create this film or this documentary of Walter. And I was wondering, was it planned to be released before he died, or I'm curious.
No, yo entiendo que ya el release estaba pautado, que ellos someten a Sundance, y de ahí es que entonces van a empezar a hacer sus rondas. Ellos obviamente estaban buscando, mi entendimiento, and I will ask, es que el target was to premiere at that festival. And then unfortunately we lost them before, but
Okay.
without spoilers, but you get to see them having a very intimate, relationship with him for a period of time. So this was definitely in the works for quite a bit, which I think it's just such a gift for all of us.
Zulema, let me ask you a sort of an organizer question. What does Walter teach us about organizing people? Because it really struck me while I'm watching it. And this is like a conversation everyone can have doing a COVID a happy hour or something while they're sipping on their beverage of choice. I was thinking about it. I was like, is Walter the GOAT, period? In terms of like, I can't think of too many people. Yeah, maybe because of the modern world, our celebrities now are more famous globally, maybe. But in terms of how he impacted like hundreds of millions of people, that's a deep connection. So what does it just teach us about how to connect with people, whether it's organizing or interpersonal relationships? Because you talk about someone, despite all the things that, were supposed to be obstacles, impact the people on a deeper level than, okay, maybe the Pope, maybe the Dalai Lama, but I can't think of too many people that were probably the most, was he the most impactful spiritual figure of his time? Maybe. He was something.
I think that I think he organized all of us, obviously, because look this moment we're at, and the fact that I think when we reflect, this came at a moment when we all needed a little light and hope, right? And so I think that as an organizer, I look at it as he really led with no obstacles. And as an organizer, you've got to, right? And he led from a deep place that he was able to look at everyone and say, come here, you can be part of this. It's okay. You will be okay here. No matter what you look like, no matter where you come from, what you're believing. If you don't speak this language, we'll figure out how to make that work. You're going to see a piece of you in me. And as an organizer, I think when you can achieve that, you're winning.
Yeah.
Wonderful. That's a wonderful thought. Mayra, give us another reflection before we hear more about this event Mayra Angeli's doing.
And thinking about what's happening now as well, I think about the message. I think he would constantly, the message was love, 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 and hope. To love one another, to be that we're human, humanity, to be genuine. And I think that was one of the messages. And just watching that, just really, you have to connect and say, like, God, can we just love each other? And that was always his message. Amor, amor, amor. Con mucho amor.
That really hit me when he said it during a documentary. He said, I never said anything negative about it.
No, he never.
Anything. But the volume of messaging, and that's true. That was his calling card.
Yeah.
He was fabulous. He was fabulous, but he wasn't a diva. He was a diva about, I need to look a certain, there's always the standard of the presentation, but not the interaction. Nunca se le subieron los humos a la cabeza. ¿Qué decían? Que nunca le decía que no a nadie. He didn't like to say no. He was so servicial. He was like, that to me is the epitome of Puerto Ricans ahí.
No, and the cousins, bien boricua esa mujer. I love the one wing of the cousins that dressed like him, and were like, and then the other ones, Maseria, they were awesome. They were all like very Puerto Rican. I love the fact that he loved being a Ponceño too. That's very Puerto Rican. Not just I'm Puerto Rican, but mi pueblo. I represent that. And there was moments where, that was one of the things I wanted to hear more about Puerto Rico and the island perspective. But that's why we're going to do other. The other thing that I want to say, and then Manage, I want to hear about your event Tuesday, is that it also affirmed why we need to have this, because one of the things, and I know we talked about this and we've observed this, is that Puerto Ricans, we need to do a better job of honoring our own icons in our own context, because it shouldn't have taken those people, and I'm glad they did in Miami. Maybe they were Puerto Rican. I don't know who these people were that did that event. It shouldn't have taken until he was almost 90 to do something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying no one ever did anything for him in Puerto Rico, but we need to do this. It hit me when we did the show in June, when we honored Eddie Palmieri. And Eddie Palmieri was like comparable to Tito Puente, comparable to Celia Cruz, comparable to all these icons that get a lot more attention. And frankly, that's part of on us, that we need to honor our own legends and do it in our context. They get honored. I don't know if y'all see this. I know you guys do, but like that that Festival de la Viña in Chile every year that they do down in Chile. And all the people they honor are Puerto Ricans. El mejor salsero Marc Anthony, el mejor reggaetonero, all the people they honor for being the greatest thing. We need to do that for ourselves and do it in a way that honors us authentically.
Yeah.
What does it say? Give me my flowers while I'm here.
Exactly. We need to do that. That's right. That's
I know
right.
I screwed that up, but it's something like that.
No,
I don't know
that's
what I
true.
said.
That's right. Marangeli, tell us about your event Tuesday. And like I said, you will be going to put this up and people will still be able to hear it. Talk to us about Tuesday.
Sí, absolutamente. So, miren, mi gente, como les dije, con an open heart. So, esta película fue una selección de FLAF 2020, and we have the honor to share some space with the films team, with the two co-directors and the producer on Tuesday, July 14th, between 8 and 9 p.m. Just go to flaf.org. You can also check it to our Facebook page. And get your questions ready. Watch the film, celebrate it, enjoy it. This is a beautiful labor of love. And join us. And people en Puerto Rico también. Entre los Estados Unidos y en Puerto Rico pueden join us.
Perfecto, perfecto. You got to support the Philadelphia Latino Film Festival. The big festivals every June. It actually was the week before Bomba Live. So we supported each other's endeavors 100%. And you have programming going on throughout the year. And I love the fact you support young Latino filmmakers as well. So, and we want to highlight the filmmakers you're working with, Marangeli. So I want to keep working with you on that. Les, I want to bring on the show and promote his Scorpion series, and we want to keep doing that. So, Marangeli, thank you so much. Anything else you want to share about the festival before we talk about some of these news headlines and bring Adonis on?
Sí, yo les quiero decir rapidito que mark your calendars also for July 25th. July 25th. And those of you that want to do something virtual, that want to watch the film with other people and be on Twitter, mañana estamos apoyando a los compañeros del Miami Film Festival and joining forces with a whole bunch of people to do a virtual Twitter watch party of the film again.
Wonderful. And Marangeli, yes. Marangeli here, Rabel from the Philadelphia Latino Film Festival.
Watch it multiple times.
Isabel Garcia, somebody mentioned in the chat, while she's watching us on her phone, she's watching it as we speak. So she's sort of live tweeting or what have you. So Marangeli, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to be a part of the show. And let's bring Adonis Banegas on the show, the executive director of Concilio. Adonis, welcome back to Bomba Live, brother.
Thanks, brother. Always a pleasure, man. Appreciate it.
All right, so we're going to keep these ladies on. Adonis, we're going to hear more in a second about the Hispanic Fiesta that typically is done on the waterfront here in Philadelphia around this time of year every summer, but now it's going to be virtual. So we're really excited to hear about that. But Adonis, you're one of our community leaders, so we wanted to keep you also engage you in this conversation about what's going on in the community. I think that the first thing I wanted to break down here is, Mayra, we're not ready to, are we ready to go to school here? I'm concerned. You work in higher education. I know we have a lot of conflicted parents out there. Let's keep it real. The people that get hurt the most economically if the kids don't go to school are Latinos, because we're the ones that have the most challenges with the daycare, and a lot of us unemployed, underemployed, and are economically really struggling during the pandemic. But I mean, we are concerned with our children. So what are as someone in education, what are your thoughts?
I'll be honest with you. I understand everybody's concerns, and I think we're all just still waiting to find out what our governors are considering to do. I know that we in higher ed are now working on a plan to come back to the fall, having a face-to-face, but that plan can change. So we're working on plan B in case, the COVID numbers strike up again right before the semester starts. We are working on plan B and saying, all right, so we can't do a face-to-face class. We're gonna have to maybe do a hybrid. And I mean, so they're working hard. And I know that a lot of the schools are also spending money to purchase better infrastructure for communication for our students. And when I mean instructional tools, for having internet for our students and getting those students who don't have a laptop. And I will tell you that when we had to go in March, go completely online, I teach a class, I teach 2 classes. And one of the things we had to do is we had to communicate with our students. If you need a computer, you need to let me know so that the university can connect you with a computer. So we were doing that type of outreach with our students. If our students didn't have Wi-Fi, we asked them that question, do you have Wi-Fi at home so that we can help you? So I know that we're trying to make We want to return safely. I know that the universities are working hard for plan A. We're working like if we're going to come back in the fall, face-to-face classes. But at the same time, if that's not possible to return safely, we are working on plan B. And I do know that we're working hard as well in infrastructure to make sure that those students who need computers, who are just, trying to make sure that they get the education that they need. But things can change, and, not everybody's going to be happy. And
it's also a local issue because certain states and certain communities are in different place. So Adonis, before we hear more about the festival, you got your ear to the street, my man. You work with the, with some of the most challenged communities that we have in Philadelphia that have a lot of needs, and these families need a lot of support. So between the school situation or the impending school situation, the summer, I mean, there's still challenges with daycare because we don't get off in the summer. Our folks are working people, the underemployed. There's just a lot of challenges there, brother. So just give people a sense of, what's going on in neighborhoods that people need to know about.
Well, to Mayra's point, when all this happened in March, as much as I'm a big supporter of the public school district and I'm a product of the public school district of Philadelphia, they weren't prepared for this. And it got to the point that a lot of students were not even getting graded for the remainder of the year because they just, how could they, right? What are they submitting? Not everybody was on the same playing field. Some had opportunities for access to the laptops and Wi-Fi, while others struggled for weeks and months at a time. So I'm hopeful that during the summer that a plan is put in place where we are able to have plan A and plan B. Plan A being ideally that the students can go back to school in a safe environment and be ready to learn in a safe environment. And if that's not an option, then making sure that 100% of our kids have what they need to be able to be functional at home. And that wasn't the case at the tail end of the year. And a lot of people are kind of overlooking that because it was only 2 months left in the school year, or only 1 month left in the school year. But the reality is that we can't go another full school year and not having kids access to what they need. Yeah. So I know that the school district has a lot of plans in place and that there's going to be a formal announcement forthcoming on what the plans are. There's been some rumors about staggered schedules and having kids coming in half of the day or a couple days a week, and then having another group of kids coming another day a week. And if that's the case, I'm fine with that. As a father myself and having 2 daughters in school, that's something that I would want to see as long as all the parameters are in place, following all the
it's the ifs, right? It's the ifs, and I'm going to get Mayra jump in. I want to have Zulema a question.
I've been posting something on Facebook because the announcements, as you mentioned, Adonis, are far going to happen. But and I know that not everyone's going to be happy, but we have to remember that we have to help determine our child's attitude between our attitude. It happened all last minute. We had to go from face-to-face class right away to online, everyone, public schools, higher ed. So we will have to, work and make the best of it. We have to become a community as well. Back in the day, we worked as a community. I remember when I had to walk to school, it was always one parent at the corner, making sure that the kids walk to school safely. So we really have to work together as a community and support each other. Just a lot of things to really think of. The schools need to work together, but the community also has to be, so neighborhood communities need to support each other as well.
Zulema, I need to get your thoughts on this because this is I have a lot of concerns, but the concern here is that, there's kind of, on some level, obviously this was fumbled from the jump. It's clear that all the other countries after 4 or 5 months figured it out and they're going to school, but they have not only a game plan, they have much lower rates than we have now. So, and even if you look at the proportions, my concern though, is that what could happen here is what has been happening, which is Black and Latino communities are getting the disproportionate brunt because our communities get less resources to deal with it. So the school districts where our community, Latinos are 3 times more likely to know someone that got impacted by COVID-19 than white people. So and African. So our kids going to be put on the front line. So Zulema, how do we sort of organize ourselves to elevate that part of the story? Because the upper class can figure it out. They can get their kids, they can buy their kids their own PPE. They can get them tutors to make it up. They can get daycare services. But our folks our kids will be the ones on the front line if we're not prepared, and that's my concern.
Yeah, I've thought about this, especially today in Arizona. Teachers are asked to go back next week. I mean, I'm a grandma, my kids are grown. I know I would be trying to send them somewhere by this point, but that's just one piece of it, right? Like, can parents even get kids masks? We're asking people to go back to an environment that how will our kids even go to after school? Are they going to after school? Is that even offered? And also, when they come home, is there a washing machine in the house for them to take off their clothes, wash immediately, get it off, do all the things like you said that other folks have access to? Let's not assume that everyone has a washer and dryer in their house that they can quickly or a garage where you can go in, take off your clothes, put it in the washer dryer, and walk into the house. Like, that's not the setup everywhere, right? So the fact that we are so disproportionate with resources, like Adonis said, like my grandkids may have tablets, but I still helped my daughter out getting herself set at home to have kids to have to teach. And folks that didn't have those resources, and now what have they been doing this whole time and going back to an environment where they may not have worn a mask this whole time? How are they going to deal with it? I mean, there's so many questions that need to be answered.
Yeah.
Shirley Santos, who's one of the Bomba Live producers, chimes in. Teachers, she's a school teacher and a union rep in the school with the teachers union. Teachers want students back more than anyone. However, they do not agree to unsafe conditions for our students and their families. And there's a lot going on. Our great friend Tony Soto is bringing up the option of potentially doing cyber. Well, right, but there is that socialization factor, and the reality is our folks got to get back to work, and so there's a lot of things going on. Zulema and Mayra, hang with me for a second because you're going to do the last segment of the show with me. But I did want to give Adonis an opportunity to talk about this fiesta, brother. I mean, this has been a staple in the Latino community for decades now in Philly, and now it's going virtual, so everyone can see it. And I'm going to put the image up of the show, and people will still hear you. So let people know about the show.
Yeah, no, thank you for the opportunity. We've been hosting Hispanic Fiesta this would have been our 39th year of continual service. And it's something that brings together the community. As you all know, it brings together all Latin American countries with the music, the dance, the food, and of course, bringing in resources to everyone, partnering with nonprofits, partnering with corporations to just have a plethora of opportunities to get information, to have a good time with your families. And we got all knocked around with this COVID. So it was something that we planned immediately after and said that, we still have to keep this brand of Hispanic Fiesta alive, whether that's in person or virtually. And we moved pretty quickly with our partners. And luckily we were able to still get some sponsors to back this up and connect with some of our local talent. So we're happy that the local talent really stood up. They're doing it just because of the love of it, nothing else more than just to get an opportunity to share their music. And
shout out some of the talent that people are going to see
absolutely.
On Saturday night.
We've always had Los Bomberos de la Calle. They're always known in the community, love them, and they're ready to step up whenever. So they'll be there. We have this great young artist named Mateo Sebastian. Back in the day, he was part of the Don Francisco show when he was a little guy, and he's making his mark now in Philly. He's only 16, 17 years old. And his voice is amazing. So he was able to join us. And then one of our favorite partners that we have is Siempre Salsa All-Stars. They're joining us to do a great piece. And of course, we had to have the dance talent there. So we have Philly's recognized dance groups, Palante, Muévete, and Acereco dance groups doing some pieces, and very powerful pieces as well to reflect some of the social injustice things that are going on. And they really took an opportunity to share some of their voice through dance with this piece. And then, of course, we're headlining it with Brenda K. Starr, who is internationally known.
No. I need to
get a little bit of Spanish. And, if you grew up in the 80s and 90s, everybody knows who she is.
Absolutely. No, Brenda did a little acting. Brenda did her thing. She's still doing her thing. And like
Still
you said,
doing her thing, and
careers, it's really exciting.
that-
I see her social media. She's really excited to be the headliner tomorrow.
And she's local too, you know. She's right there, you know, from New York, but lives out in Jersey. So we were able to reach out to her and get this thing going. And we'll have some pieces there. We're obviously going to touch upon the social injustice that we're not going to be immune to that piece. So we have a nice little segment there, and another little piece about COVID-19 and how it's impacted the Latino community, and what's Philadelphia Foundation in particular is doing or has done to support nonprofits in the area. So it's a 90-minute segment. It's going to be this Saturday starting at 7 p.m. We're going to live stream it on Facebook, on our Facebook at Concilio Philly. And we're also going to simulcast it on our YouTube page at El Concilio. So if you have it on TV, you can, you know, put it on YouTube. And then if you have your desktop or your phone, you can watch it on Facebook and Instagram.
Want to shout out Philly Cam, which is one of your media sponsors. Much respect to Vanessa Villagraver, who just announced she's going to be leaving Philly Cam. But we're still great partners of ours, and I'm glad that you've been able to do some work with your young people there at that radio station and do a lot of good stuff. And I'm, you know, obviously I'm curious about your technical situation, so I'm gonna be checking it out, and I think I can learn some stuff from you guys. I saw a full band practicing, and so you got, you know, you're gonna have your full dance troops. Respect to Alina, Christina's daughter, who's part of the Muévete group, and Ray Velez, who had a birthday this week. Yeah, a big part of our crew too. So,
and a big shout out to La Mega. I mean, they've always been supportive of what we do, and their production company has really helped us out and just getting this thing together. Our sponsors, you know, we got to make sure we take care of them. Health Partner Plans has been always presente. Patriot Home Care has been great. Aetna, like you said, Philly Cam and La Mega. So, you know, with this together, it's not as big as we usually do. It's not a 2-day event, 12 hours, me working 18 hours a day, sweating myself off and walking 20,000 steps. But it's still something that we wanted to give back to the community, something that we just wanted to shine a light on. During these tough times, we can still have a little fun. So I'm hoping that you can watch it from your homes, watch it in your backyard, you know, and enjoy the culture, enjoy the night, and be supportive of what we do.
And on the positive, you don't have to be in the Philly area to see it. I mean, anyone watching this, you know, we have people chiming in from Florida, Puerto Rico, the West Coast, Chicago, the New York area. Like, anyone could check out Concilio's Facebook page or YouTube page and check out. I mean, this is talent that is worthy of being part of the New York Parade or other big events. Again, the Muévete Dance Troupe was part of Bomba Live. So, and Brenda K. Starr is an internationally known performer. So a lot of great people part of the show. Adonis, brother, keep us posted. I definitely want to bring you back. It's overdue to have a conversation, I think, as we get closer to the school year, but also I've been meaning to get you and Edward on the show and a few of the couple homies, just have a conversation about fatherhood, manhood. You know, we got caught up with Bomba Live right around Father's Day, so I wasn't able to do that. I like to do that every year, but that's overdue because we got to keep having this conversation about mentorship and how the men in our community step it up, because we know the women are taking care of business, but I think there's certain issues that we don't give enough time to how we can, as men, support our young fellas out there. And I know you're a big part of that. And I know you provide a lot of leadership. Concilio, Adonis Banegas or Concilio Philadelphia. Check out the Virtual Hispanic Fiesta event this Saturday on Concilio's social media handles with Brenda K. Starr and the rest of the crew. We're going to now watch, before we have the last segment of the show, we're going to allow a snippet from a performance we had on the Big Bomba Live in June with Domino Kings, sort of a mezcla with reggaeton, pop, the Caribbean vibe, a really good duo, Puerto Rican duo making moves with the new album Island Kings. Let's hear a little flavor in Domino Saints, and we'll bring back the ladies for this last segment. Thank you, brother. Best of luck this week.
Take care,
Tranquila, yo no lo pienso 2 veces. Me pego sin interés. Te tengo salivando. Ahora te toca a ti. Bailame,
baby, come wine. Que tú estás bien fine. Es que te pienso todo el tiempo. No te saco de mi mind. Tienes todo lo más de loco cuando mueves el behind. Quiero darte pump, pump. Move your body, wine, baby, come and wine for me, for me. Como tú te mueves me dice que me quieres. Wine for me, for me. Báilame mi vida, báilame mamá. Wine for me, yeah, yeah. Como tú te mueves, muestra que me quieres. Wine for me. Báilame mi vida, báilame mamá. Baila pa' mí, baila pa' mí.
Thank you. Domino Saints. That was the IG cut, only 59 seconds. But the fuller one you can catch out on Bomba Live's YouTube page. Their full performance, and they're going to be back on the show. They want to come back in August, talk more about their album and talk more about the music. Want to shout out another group that's going to be coming on the show next week, La Palcha, which is another one of these hybrid reggaeton. They incorporate, they're Puerto Ricans, but they incorporate vallenato and some of the Colombian rhythms in their music. So they're going to come on next week, talk about their music. So I know we love different types of music on the show. So the last thing is I wanted to keep Adonis out of it because I don't know who sponsors him. But let me just put up the theme of this last conversation. So we need to cancel Goya, fam. Just wanted to let people know. Zulema,
what do you mean? What are you talking about?
Yes. So, yes.
I'm over here looking up recipes for adobo right now.
All right.
Yes. Vita arroz. So this afternoon, while we were all like working and like doing things positive for people, the president CEO of Goya, Robert Unanu, was on the White House lawn and said at a press event with Donald Trump that Donald Trump is a blessing from God to our community.
¿Pero qué le dio?
What? No me diga.
¿Qué le dio a ese hombre?
I don't know.
¿Qué le dieron?
I don't know.
I want to know.
I mean, I don't even know what to say about it because this is the bottom line. This is leadership men.
Who buys Goya? Who is the largest?
This is why we're in the position we're in.
Let's
keep it real.
Things.
Can't have nice things.
We
Can't have nice things because,
so now we need a
because of his weak
Vita
leadership. Because of his weak leadership. Because what? A tax cut? What are you getting from this guy? This man, this jerk is more important to you right now in your life than this hundreds of millions of people that have made your family incredibly wealthy?
Well, what about so did he even think about the blue tarps on our island still? Did he? I mean, what was it? What did he get? What? I mean, let me tell you. I love me some adobo. That's my life. Like, you put that on eggs, put that on everything. But like, what do you do now culturally when we have been betrayed?
She just froze.
Okay.
Say it again, Zulema.
This is not okay.
It ain't okay.
Betrayal. This is not okay. Like, what I am having I'm having trouble processing what on earth was so appealing that he thought that'll be a good idea and let me go and make it public that I went, not even sneak in, do what I got to do, shake the hands, and like nobody has to know about it. Like, brother decided to make it public.
No, the thing is, you already got the tax cut. You already got the hookup with the PP. Like, whatever you got, you already got it.
You got it.
Look at the Supreme Court guys. Look at the two white guys he put on the Supreme Court. Wasn't worried about it. They've been going against him for the last 2 weeks with these decisions, which have been pretty beneficial for our democracy and our community with the LGBT decision, the decisions today. Those same guys that the most racist person, all these the two Republicans he thought were going to take care of him in the Supreme Court, they just gave the Native American community half Oklahoma today back because they were like, the rules are the rules. We stole it, and there's a treaty that says it was stolen. So they had enough guts, and they were put on the Supreme Court by this guy to do the right thing. And one of them is particularly a jerk. He did the right thing a little bit, and our own people that have riches beyond. There's nothing Trump can do to not make the Goya family rich for the next 5 generations.
Listen,
don't have enough leadership and enough guts to stand up to this man. It's disgusting.
I've been looking up what are the alternative companies we can support because, honestly, a dozen cousins, they make adobo pa' allá voy. Conchita pa' allá voy.
Seguro.
Adia Spices on my way, right? Because
Vita arroz.
I think it's a separate company. It's a separate company, but they just.
I don't even want something that sits next to it on the shelf. like too close. I was just checking on Twitter, and there are folks that have emptied out their.
They need to.
Supply. Marta supply. Like, listen. Like, if we don't stand for this, like, if we allow this to happen, if we allow this injury, we're allowing everything. Like, Goya. Part of our Latino culture. They've been shady for a minute. Let's not pretend that this is the first time they've done something questionable. However, straight up, with the man that threw paper towels at our people in their darkest hour. You went and said that God sent him to us.
Did God send him to put our children in cages on the southern border, and they're still in there? And by the way, the court told him he had till July 21st, and he could have let him out at any time. He still has them in there. So he wants to push it to the very end to torture these children.
Yeah, my God didn't tell him that. My God didn't send him.
Walter Mercado certainly would have told him that. That's for sure. So the last thing before I let these ladies go is the one thing that is going to be a tough one is the adobo. Let's keep it real. And the sofrito. So let's talk about it, fam. Mayra, give us some guidance, girl. Talk to us.
Come on. What's an adobo? Sal, garlic powder, black pepper, ¿verdad?
Hey, we make our own sofrito. We can make our own adobo.
Exactly. I make my own sofrito. I never buy it.
Acá estoy buscando. ¿Dónde está la receta? Because I'm about to make some.
You know what? I'm gonna call my man out, and I'm saying this in a loving way. Basically the official chef of Bomba Live is my man from Sabor with Love, Chef Greg. Everybody knows that's the beast right there.
He won't be able to give us the recipe. We need to bring him back.
So I'm calling Gregorio right now, fam, in Tampa, Florida, bro. I know you're gonna watch this, and we'll send it to you. Is that, bro? You gotta let the world know what is the definitive criollo adobo recipe, so we can follow your lead. And what I think is Chef Greg, him and his wonderful wife, those are real people, real Puerto Ricans, real, super buena gente. I think they need to start manufacturing adobo, and we need to support them. Real people from the community. So, Greg, you start making adobo, fam, you get free advertisement on Bomba Live for perpetuity because we need to find an alternative de nosotros.
Let's also let's chase the money. Who does Goya touch? Who is Goya supporting? Like, are there any candidates that are running for office that Goya supports? Like, let's chase. Like Shirley said, our economic power. This is the moment, right? We need to chase the money and figure out who Goya touches and what they're doing about it.
That's right. You know, the funny thing is, someone did a little research, and they're real cheap with political giving. Like the guy gave the Republicans in the last couple of years like $6,000, which is like you have $1 billion business. So they're not even players because they don't even give up a lot of money. That's ridiculous. Mayra, get in here, girl. I'm so frustrated about it.
You know, and the all reality is that they don't really care about us. They do not care about us.
That's sad.
And that's
obvious. That's obvious.
Puerto Ricans too.
Yeah. So, and it's like Shirley mentioned, we need to move our economic power to another company because they don't care about us.
No.
We're gonna wrap up this edition of Found Translation Bomba Live. This was a great show. I enjoyed you all having so much. Mayra, give us any final words about the education. Anything else you want to share? I know you're enjoying your summer. No importa, you do your thing. So just any messages for your fans.
I'm just going to say, I'll start off. Gracias por la invitación. And I'm just going to ask everyone, for the safety of everyone, just wear your mask and ask for patience, finding out what your school districts are going to do and how we can support them, support our students, support our teachers, support our parents. And let's have positive conversations with our kids so that they don't see our frustration.
That's right. And Zulema, the final word. Always bring a lot of fire to the table. We got to make it happen in November because the democracy. Yeah. And let me tell you something.
Like your life depended on it.
No, and get your 7 cousins. Let me tell you something. And I'm just being honest. I'm not saying this to be dramatic, but everything we say here comes to fruition. If people really check out the archives, we'll break it down here on the show. If we lose this one in November, at some point in the next 4 years, me and Zulema will be incarcerated just because they're just going to start treating us like the Soviet Union. And I'm not on a wish on you, Zulema, but if Bill Barr and Trump can do whatever they want for 4 more years, I mean, it's that scary. We got to really be careful.
Al campo de San Lorenzo me voy, que me encuentren por allá.
Or Uruguay, somewhere there's a Caribbean island somewhere.
Positive energy.
Absolutely. Zulema, end it with some positive energy. I just want to
end it with mucho, mucho amor.
Yes.
That's the way to end it. Thank you all so much, ladies. Yeah. Thank you, Adonis, Marangeli, and the rest of the Bomba Live family. Have a great weekend. Peace.
Yes,